Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. There's been a lot of info recently from the devs, Townhall, talking about props, manipulatable items, info on power distribution, blubbing stuff up, and a good bit about gravity, moons, procedural tech, and planets. So props, Townhall. There was a June Townhall focusing on props. I'll give you a brief overview. The props team creates set dressings, items that can be moved and manipulated, or have motion, from bottles to pens to crates to windows and destructibles and breakables, explosive barrels, but also ship components. Most items and components have a manufacturer and style that give a somewhat unified look at a glance. You can see that an item is a particular manufacturer type after you know what they will look like. So I'll be able to go, oh, this barrel is from Aegis Dynamics. You'll be able to manipulate most props as well. This is going to lead to various emergent gameplay techniques. You'll be able to shoot destructibles like lights, create barricades, use props to distract enemies, and some of these will be to your advantage or disadvantage based on how that plays out. Props will also have damage states and they will degrade over time. There was some extra information given them about planets, moons, procedural tech, and what's coming with 3.0 in regards to that and what's coming a bit afterwards. Planets and moons will have their own unique atmospheric qualities and gravities. Moons in 3.0 will have a lower gravity than that of walking around a ship or station in the rest of 3.0 that have like gravity generators. This will only be a bit less, but it will be noticeable when walking, driving, jumping. Low gravity animation sets for various gravities will be looked into by the animation team after Alpha 3.0's release. The planet tech is the exact same system used for both planets and moons. They differ in some base parameters, so that would be like size, gravity, some environments, for instance, what atmosphere they have, and of course ecosystem distribution and procedural object distribution. Moons have moon-like rocks scattering the surface and effects. Earth-like planets will have procedural distribution of trees, vegetation. ArcCorp will have scattered buildings. But it could be possible for a moon with an atmosphere to be very planet-like, and conversely, a planet with no or little atmosphere to be very moon-like. There are no hard rules. They look at the intention of a particular procedural or astral body and then say, what styles do we need to put into this? Planet and moon services are going to be progressively procedurally generated as players approach them. The huge terrain texturing is not stored in some form of ultra mega map. They are generated at runtime, blending on the fly several different texture layers depending on the ecosystem and planet setup. Each ecosystem has its own artist-driven small geographical sample data. For instance, on Yella, they used around 5 ecosystems combined with several different properties. There is a fixed geometry pool which is continuously getting regenerated and reused as the player moves around the planet and generates the planet's surface. The objects scattered on the ground and the planet's surface are also procedurally distributed based on different rule sets set up by the environmental artists. Only a small amount of source data is getting combined at runtime to create a much larger planet and environment without requiring huge amounts of disk space. Though procedurally generated, the sets of rules defining these planets and moons do not change, so every player sees the same planet, world, environment, and textures. They don't change every time you visit them, and they're not different for every player's point of view, and they're not different on different servers, even in Alpha 3.0. Let's talk about power distribution in Alpha 3.0 and the gameplay changes that will take part because of that. Currently in Star Citizen, all of the ships are currently operating at 100% engine power, shield power, and weapon power. This is no longer going to be possible without overclocking, which will cause heat and wear and tear and other repercussions, and overclocking won't even be in 3.0. It's a future feature. So you will be able to push power to bring engines to 100%, which will bring up your top speed as expected, but you will have to drop weapons and shields to, for example, 15%. Your shields use a power to maintain shield health, so your shields quickly drop to 15% health, which is better than nothing, but it's not appropriate for combat, really, unless you're trying to tank by running away or evasion. So now you're at top speed, and you no longer need your power assigned to the engines to keep you at that top speed. So you can reallocate it again, bringing shields to 100% as effectively a direct trade. Shields require twice the additional power to charge health, say. So you'll use that to charge your shields quickly, or if you're just finished in combat. the idea here is that choices of when you change your power distribution could be vital in fights, or just remembering to do it after a fight. Lots of efficient ways of doing that could also be to have a dedicated shield and power operator on board. So, for example, the Super Hornet becomes much more viable as a fighter if you've got someone that is literally changing your power operation as and when needed for maximum efficiency. The goal here is that if you were flying in a straight line, you'd be in for smooth sailing, as long as you don't maneuver if you've got like no power to your engines after you've come to top speed. But if you want to stop, you're going to need to put power to your engines, or if you want to maneuver, you'll need to put power to your thrusters and engines. Otherwise, it's going to take you a while to stop, and you're not going to be agile. But the only way you can do that is by sacrificing some other form of power, so whether it should be shields or whether that be weapons or both. And that's the idea there, is that if you overly try and push the power, or you use too much of your power, say in a quick burst, systems might begin to shut down, and you might have to go through the startup sequence for your ship again. Also, varying power levels are going to be a powerful tool for stealth, as low power items, and keeping your power low on those items will reduce your EM and IR signatures, making you less visible to that form of detection and those form of locks from weapons. Ship deaths. So after Alpha 3.0, they're going to be moving away from the kind of canned deaths that we currently have to a more emergent systemic method for ship deaths and failure behaviours. So this is going to be dependent on item system 2.0, which is why they're going to be doing it after 3.0. Then they're going to be moving over vehicle health to fully utilise the new item 2.0 health component systems. Ships can die in a variety of different ways and different modes of disarray, from shield generators being slightly on the fritz to turrets overheating and exploding, all the way through to epic explosions. This means that ship deaths will be more varied, and sometimes a ship will just be disabled, where flight is more difficult, almost impossible, but the other subsystems might still work. So you might have working turrets still, but your ship is pretty much, other than that, uninhabitable. This is going to be interesting for gameplay, and it's going to feed into mechanics such as salvage, loot, escape, capture, boarding, and all that sort of jazz. Some other bits and bobs that you might find interesting as well that I saw. Exploration is a key part of Star Citizen. Players will be able to modify their loadout to specialise in finding and exploring anomalies within space, both good and bad. There will be some finds that are valuable, like loot on a derelict frigate, and sometimes you're only going to be able to find and discover them if you've got the right equipment on you at the time, right kind of suit for EVAing through hazards or whatever, or the right kind of ship armor or whatever. Once the Aquila is flyable, it should become the loaner ship for the Carrack. The UEE ship prefix that they military use, I believe, is UEES, and not UEEN, as some people thought. Voice over IP is being worked on now. The future plans for voice chat is that it will be routed diegetically and spatialized in game. It's highly dependent on their audio propagation tech all coming together though, and radio filter effects and like that sort of stuff are much easier to implement, so we will have some form of cool voice over IP and audio in game. Let's just wait and see what form that takes, and we know that it's going to be first coming in that spectrum overlay that they'll have for the game. Every month, we give away a ship. For June, it's a Freelancer DUR, or DUR, donated by the Epic Firestorm 962. Thank you very much for that. You are a scholar and a gentleman. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on one of my Star Citizen videos during that month. Do you have any questions for me, or about anything we've discussed there, or about the Town Hall, about props, destructibles, ships, procedural attack, whatever, or about Star Citizen's development in general? A special thank you to my Patreons who allow me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one, I welcome when you're on board, and you can find the links to everything we've discussed and Patreon below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe as well, as it genuinely does help me for more Star Citizen. Woo! And I will see you in the verse.